Hey, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome back to the Oddcast podcast.
Off the record.
I'm Blackie.
I'm Erica.
Thanks for joining us. It's your first time here. We appreciate you being here. If you could do us a favor and like and subscribe, it'd be great. If you enjoy the show, of course, we wouldn't ask you to do that if you didn't enjoy the show. But, we could be greedy like that. So, how you been?
We're glad to see everybody here. And we're getting up on the holidays. So I know that may change who's able to watch, especially probably next weekend. But we will have a show next weekend as well.
Absolutely. This is getting, to me, it's getting contagious. I want to do more. I want to get out and do like shorts and things like that. I just need a little, what to do and how to do it. Let's see. Oh, go ahead. Oh, yeah. Yes, we should do that. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We appreciate it. A lot of people were in chat prior to the show. Brother Gary, Val, Denise, we appreciate it. Brian, Carmen.
Misty.
Misty was here. Brother Billy, if I didn't say that already. But we're really happy you're here. This is going to be an interesting little show.
Denise.
I know we're both kind of excited after studying the stuff. We're going to talk about frequencies and their effect on the human body. And then we're going to get into, what's the word I'm looking for? Infrasound. Yeah. And that really interests me. That's why I know in a lot of the paranormal world, cryptid world, that infrasound is talked about a lot. And I really wanted to know what it was and how it was created, what created it, I guess I should say. So it'll be fun getting into this. Our bodies are affected by frequencies every day. Erica will get more into that, but we have so many things in our body that are using frequencies every single day. We see, our hearing, our breathing, everything involves frequencies. And what I really liked about this is we fall asleep every night to some sort of 432 hertz sleeping music, or there's so many different whether they are real or not, they're just videos on YouTube's black screen, but it helps us fall asleep. And they say that music soothes the savage beast, and there's a reason for that, and my lovely wife will get into that, and so we'll start discussing it.
Okay.
All right, hit it up.
Sounds good. So for us, I'm looking forward to the episode because we do like to fall asleep to music, but soothing music, and it may just be sounds. So it's kind of like tying into, we're going to cover more scientific of these things that we enjoy every day just because we enjoy them. We haven't looked into them. It's how our body reacts to them. So I'm looking forward to that part of it. It is very easy to find the things that we're talking about. Very easy to find them on YouTube for the sounds. And
again, we always says, we'll give you the worm. We'll talk about it. We are not experts. Obviously, that's what the little thing in front when we start the show, the disclaimer. But it interests us, and we want it to interest you. So we will feed as much information as we can to you. And then again, research on your own if you're really interested in the science of it.
Mm-hmm. And I have some information that I gathered. There is a website, which I was unfamiliar with before this episode, but revolutionhealth.org. And they had a great article on the healing power of frequency. And this was published in June of this year. So, but the frequencies in our body, there are treatments and therapies that affect and positively affect our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And this has been the case from the dawn of day. So it is a strong history in this. It's things that I feel like we don't think about now. Thankfully, we have the resources like YouTube and, reaching worldwide. So the scope is much bigger. So we have better access to these therapies, or at least the introduction or education of them. But so on this article, it says quantum physics and biofield science. According to them, our bodies are not just biochemical systems. We are also electromagnetic and vibrational. And you'll see the ways it'll make sense. So first off, our electrical currents and magnetic fields. So a lot of us are familiar with EEG and EKG. You know, you at least know someone who has had this. And electroencephalogram is the EEG that measures the brain's activity, and the electrocardiogram, the EKG, is heart related. They capture frequency. So we are no strangers to those testings. So that kind of, for me, just really ties it into everyday for us now. And then frequency plays a role in cell signaling, neural communication, hormone regulation, mitochondrial activity, and immune responses. And our natural frequencies are usually disrupted by stress, illness, toxins, or electromagnetic fields. When that's the case, we can become susceptible to disease. And so we're talking about the healing frequencies for therapy today. But in the past, Egyptians used sound to treat ailments in healing temples. That sounds very foreign to us nowadays.
Yeah, big time.
Tibetan monks used singing bowls and chants for spiritual and physical wellness. I know that for me, some of the yoga I've done involves singing bowls, and they're amazing. We've actually had a treatment, a physical in-person treatment with the singing bowls, and they're huge. I mean, well, they can be huge. Just think of like percussion and cymbals and drums, and how, you know, the diameter can vary and the material can vary. And so the sound and how the instrument touches, it all affects the frequency. And then again, how our body would connect with that, or how a therapy could occur. But singing bowls and chants. Indigenous cultures across the globe incorporated drumming and rhythmic chanting into their healing ceremonies. Again, that's a lot of in the past, but we are aware that that still occurs. So it makes sense when you hear that.
Yeah, definitely.
Pythagoras, the Greek mathematician, taught that musical intervals could harmonize the soul and body. And I believe we all know that. At least we are so into music, and it really can affect your mood.
Well, you think about, with music, especially, if you have a good day, a lot of people are listening to upbeat music. They put the upbeat music on and they're having a good day. But when people are sad, they turn to the blues or to country music. Sorry, but country music, music that's a little bit more, got a slower tempo to it, or things like that. We listen to everything. We really do, except country. Sorry, but we are metalheads. We love classical music, and there are times where she comes home from work and we'll put on, a campfire on the TV, and it just has nice slow jazz or something on it, and it's just enough for you to unwind with. And it really, rather than playing our metal and getting you angry, some metal gets you angry, we put on something real nice and calm, and that has to do with the tempo of the music and the soft lyrics, maybe, or other things. Maybe the scene on the TV, but we don't really stare at the TV for that.
I'm looking at the chat, and we got the blues doctor in here talking about blues. Because if you love the blues, like that feeling of the music. And Skinner Nation, I do love Give Me Back My Bullets. So,
Well, they had a lot of good songs. So,
yeah.
anyway.
Okay. Sound therapy, types of sound therapy, tuning fork therapy. It applies specific frequencies to energy centers, chakras, or acupuncture points. Singing bowls, again, often used in meditation to induce calm and release energetic blockages.
If I do have to say, if anybody has never done singing bowls, it is really a wild experience. The last one we did, they put our feet in this giant bowl, and I don't know what the bowl is made of. And then they take their little rubber thing and they go around the outside, and you can literally feel the vibrations all the way up to your head. And it's such a, we'll get into this in a little bit, but it's such a weird feeling, but you feel so good when the vibration stops. Like that's a cleansing or something. I don't know, but it's
that
it's very
connection
nice
with your body.
Yeah.
Again, the therapy. And gong baths.
Wait, I think I have a sound for that. Go ahead.
Large gongs generate complex harmonic overtones that induce meditative states.
That's it right there. Go ahead.
Music therapy, used in clinical settings to treat PTSD, dementia, anxiety, and depression. And I think that one of our acquaintances used the singing bowls to treat her husband who had dementia. So I believe that's what she was treating.
And I look, we're the first people that are preach use natural. Try to use it as much as you can. We think that it's the best way to heal. It's, I'm not saying for diseases, I don't know anything about it, but try it. If you have something, what's the worst could happen?
Yeah, we're not medically trained, but we definitely try to keep our mind open to the more natural treatments. And, it's sad when people are suffering and they haven't even considered, natural treatments. And sometimes that can really help them. So don't forget about that. But on the sound therapy, target frequencies. Okay, so we have different ranges and they're measured in hertz. So the 396 hertz is said to combat guilt and fear, also promotes emotional healing. 417 hertz facilitates change and clears negative past experiences. 528 hertz is sometimes called the miracle tone. It's associated with DNA repair. 639 hertz encourages harmonious relationships. 741 hertz detoxifies cells. It enhances problem solving. 852 hertz awakens spiritual order and returns spirit balance. 963 hertz awakens pineal gland and spiritual insight. So again, this is just an introduction to this information. I know for me, I think kind of what got me started on this was I worked before in a very important job, and I had to write extensive reports for that job, which I loved. But I was in a very high traffic area, and it's hard for me to concentrate. So especially with all downtown traffic and actual foot traffic in the office, it was, I was in a very loud area to be report writing. And so I bought a little machine, which was for like white noise. And that's kind of what got me started on that, I believe. And then it led into It's kind of calming. I noticed that back then. I didn't get into how many hertz is this. And
Right.
we're not even at that point. We're not the ones doing the treatment. We just listen to it because it's very soothing. So we don't pick a specific frequency for these reasons that I just read off. We cannot speak to that healing of that. That's what it's said to heal with various studies.
And yeah, I would say a lot of people, even their studies, they've kind of proved that a lot of this works. I don't know if that works on specific people with certain, vibrations in their own body. Certain, I've talked about vibrations and the sensitivities in many of the shows that I've been on about, people being able to see things that aren't there or that other people can't see. Again, we'll get into that here in a second.
Mm-hmm. Okay, binaural beats, another treatment. They occur when two different frequencies are presented in each ear. The brain hears a third tone, which is the difference between the two tones. And this is another one available on YouTube, which we also listen to. We just pick, what's showing, for our, closest options. Usually we're not that picky when it comes to these. Okay. So these are interactive with a different set of hertz, a lower range of hertz. So delta is 0.5 to 4 hertz and said to help the binaural beats, helps with deep sleep and regeneration or healing. Theta is 4 to 8 hertz, and this involves meditation, creativity, emotional insight. Alpha is 8 to 14 hertz, and this offers a relaxed alertness or focus. Beta is 14 to 30 hertz. It involves focus and cognition. Gamma is 30 to 100 hertz, and this involves problem solving and peak concentration, according to the article. Some of the benefits of the binaural beats would be improved sleep, reduction in stress, enhanced learning, which I have used these for that reason, again with the concentration, mood regulation, and focus and cognitive performance. And for me, mood regulation, again, it would be just like chilling out, calming down. I love silence.
And I'm not very silent.
There are times where I'm like, let me just be alone and just silence, because to me it's kind of healing. Because my brain, sometimes I just need a rest. So I'm totally cool with silence, at least off and on. And I'm very sensitive to sounds too. Like there are certain sounds that just drive me up the wall.
We experienced one today. The young man down the street's got a truck that's pretty much doesn't have any exhaust on it. And it seems like whenever he leaves his driveway, he's got to floor it. And of course, then, no exhaust. It's, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I can't handle that. And she does that with quite a few things that bother her.
Yeah.
I'm old and deaf, and she's young and sprite and still can hear things. So
yeah, it's I'll go to car shows and listen to drag racing, like right there as close as I can get. But I just have to be ready for that setting. So pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, PEMF, is referred to also. Uses low frequency electromagnetic waves to stimulate cellular repair and optimize bodily function. PEMF pulses mimic the Earth's natural Schumann resonance. These pulses penetrate the body, stimulating cells to enhance circulation, promote detoxification, modulate inflammation, and accelerate tissue healing. Clinical uses would be for chronic pain, fracture healing, arthritis, post-surgical recovery, depression, and anxiety. And as I read that list, I'm thinking, when have you ever gone to the doctor and they say, oh, you have chronic pain. You should listen to blah, blah, blah. Just fill in the blank. Another treatment therapy, Rife Frequencies. Dr. Royal Rife developed a frequency generator in the 1930s. And that was found to work with fighting bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungi, and cancer cells. Frequency-specific microcurrent, FSM, uses low-level electrical currents at specific frequencies to reduce inflammation and repair tissue. Benefits are accelerated injury recovery, reduced pain, improved range of motion, modulation of nerve signals. They say it's particularly effective for fibromyalgia, neuropathy, tendinitis, and concussions. So on the PEF, they sell PEF mats for treatment. Again, a lot of these, if you could meet with someone who works with meditations and yoga, I believe that would be a great resource for finding connections with singing bowls and tuning forks. And but the binaural beats, again, we listen on YouTube to that, not for treatment reasons, just to chill out.
Yeah. I have so many thoughts that run through my head every day, and I don't know where half of them come from. It's the thoughts that drive her crazy, because usually it involves a lot of questions. And you guys are, you that know me know I love to ask questions, and she knows she's usually the beneficiary of my question asking. And sometimes she just looks at me and says, why are you asking these questions? I'm like, I have to ask somebody. So that, she said she likes to enjoy silence every once in a while. It's pretty much because of me.
That's not true.
Well, I like to think of it that way.
That's not true.
Okay. So you saw the title of the show, Infrasound. It's also called the ghost frequency, and we'll get into why it's called the ghost frequency. I know a lot of people here in that we have in chat have experienced infrasound one way or the other. Infrasound is the sound that's too low for us humans to hear. It runs around, well, I guess humans hear between 20 and 20,000. So William, you were correct with the 19,000. We hear between 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Below 20, you can't hear. At least we can feel the vibration, but we can't hear it. Okay, so it's not an audible sound. And it's a wavelength that can travel for miles. So that was something I found very interesting. There are common, very different areas from where infrasound can come. It can come naturally, it can come mechanically, and it can become man-made. It can come man-made. So natural sources would be like wind, volcanoes, earthquakes, ocean waves, wind interacting with trees, with mountains, with buildings, animals, and we'll get into the animals here in a minute. Now, mechanical wise, industrial machinery, engines. I know that you get in around drag strips and the horsepower that comes out of them engines, you can feel the ground shake and your body shaking. So it kind of creates that effect. Wind turbines, if the big stupid things they have all over Midwest. HVAC systems can give you infrasound. Large fans and explosions can create infrasound. Now, some of the effects of infrasound, and a lot of you are going to know what these are anxiety and unease. Infrasound around 17 to 19 hertz has been linked to feelings of being watched, a sense of dread, general tension or nervousness. And this is what they sometimes call the fear frequency. Walking into a building and feeling like something is watching you, or someone, you just have a feeling. Now, we're going to touch on all this later with my opinion. Another effect would be nausea and dizziness. And I know a lot of people in this chat, when they're out doing their thing in the woods, they've experienced both nausea and dizziness. Inner ear pressure, body's natural equilibrium being equilibrium. If I slow down, people exposed for long periods of report that motion sickness, nausea, lightheadedness, and spatial, I guess that's the word, spatial disorientation. So they just get disoriented. You can get headaches and fatigue. Some people get throbbing headaches, brain fog, irritability, and unusual tiredness. I must get that every day. And this is often reported around wind turbines, large engines, and industrial equipment. A lot of people have trouble concentrating. There's your kind of your brain fog. You can't focus on what you're doing. And reduced mental clarity, brain fog, slower reaction times, not enough to where you lose control, but enough to notice it. Blurred vision. I'm sure people have felt blurred vision or had blurred vision, not feel it. Shaking vision. These are all things that I've experienced, and I thought it was just because I was getting old, but apparently I've been around things that have done this to me, and I've never had a doctor tell me I'm having issues. So I'm assuming that I was around something that was creating infrasound. Visual illusions or shadows, and this is something we'll touch on here in a bit, a little bit more. Chest pressure or vibration in your chest. You can feel it. Maybe your heart feels like it's beating a little faster. Or fluttering is a good word to use. Low frequency body vibrations. Again, when we talked about those, the what are those called? The things?
Singing bowls.
Singing bowls. You can feel that, and that's kind of what sometimes you can feel that. You can hear a singing bowl though. I get it. It's not dangerous at normal levels, but it's uncomfortable. And sleep disturbance. You get restless sleep, waking up suddenly, strange dreams or agitation, even though people don't hear anything. Now, I get a lot of that. It makes sense to me, but strange dreams or agitation, I don't know how they proved that this was caused by infrasound. It can also be caused just by, things you've eaten, the way you sleep. That stuff can all be attributed to that as well.
Just a second.
Oh, okay.
So Denise said she can't go into some stores because of the lights. And I just thought about that. Well, for two reasons.
Go ahead.
One was anytime I've changed a light bulb, and I'm thinking, oh, I forgot that it says Hertz on there. But that story we were following about Walmart, what they were saying about Walmart.
How they were dimming the lights?
How they have how people were reporting that they had certain negative effects, like feelings, when they went into Walmart. It's never affected me that way. And I don't think they were, I think there was something scientific to it. But in the article, they were talking about how the lights were in there and they did it for a specific reason. But maybe I can find that video.
Well, I know that the lighting has to do with, I think, making people more in the ability of possibly shopping more. That's kind of silly, but
there's a lot of marketing. Yes, absolutely. That goes into that. But I'd have to listen to that again. And also Sharon asked about grounding sheets. I had never heard of that until you mentioned that. So I looked it up.
Yeah, thank you. Again, this is what you guys are here for. Well, you're here to listen, but we're here to learn. So
plus she's in Belgium, right?
Yes.
So that really helps because in America, I've never heard of it. I don't know how popular it is here, but what I looked up said that it was a mixture of silver and cotton, but like bed sheets that you would plug in, and it helps bring back some of our nature to us. They were talking about how, we don't touch the ground, which I've heard of that in many different references, a lot with yoga and natural healing. But how our feet are touching, silicone or plastics, our shoes, we're not touching the ground. We're not touching the earth. We're touching these synthetic materials.
And that's why they say that going barefoot is the best thing you can do for your body. One of the best things, because your body, first of all, you're going to build more muscles because you're using more of your feet and leg, muscles and everything when you walk on it. But also because you're becoming one with the ground, with earth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's supposed to be a really good thing for your body. It grounds you. But anyway, we'll get into animals, because animals use infrasound for many different things. They use it to attract mates. They use it to, fish are a great example of that, but they use it to control their herd or control their pod of whales, or just, hey, stay away from this area. And they kind of, we think like an elephant's making I can't do an elephant sound. And if I did, I wouldn't do it here. But, elephants can communicate over long distances to keep their herd together, to find out if there's, to put out warning signals and things like that. And that's big. And their vibrations can travel through the air or on the ground. That's how the infrasound works. Whales do the same thing. Giraffes use ultrasound hums for that are too low, obviously too low. Infrasound. I kept saying, did I say ultrasound? Infrasound. Mm-hmm. I got to be careful of that. Giraffes use it for nighttime communication so that they're not making noise to attract predators. Rhinoceroses use it. Hippos use it. Alligators and crocodiles. Tigers' roars contain infrasound components, believed to help stun or intimidate prey. Now, I know a lot of you guys in the chat, since we are also part of the Sasquatch community, talk about Sasquatch using infrasound to, we know some people in the chat that have been stunned, that have lost time because of what they feel they were hit with while they were in the woods. Now, obviously, I can't look that up because, science says that there's really no such thing as Sasquatch. We know there is. It's coming out more and more every day, the reality that these things exist. So, yeah, let's talk about.
Gary said, or got knocked out by infrasound.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to mention names, but one of our friends completely lost time. Didn't know. They went to bed, whatever. There was a long list of things after they saw what they saw that, really freaked them out, and, kind of freaked me out as well. When somebody talks about getting hit with infrasound, and again, we're hearing what they tell us, we're reading what scientifically we can find, without actually doing all the tests. When you start jumping into the conspiracy realm of it, you learn a lot more of what's going on. And me, I'm a guy that believes there's a lot more going on than what there is. Human frequencies are a reason some people can see UFOs, cryptids, or ghosts. And I always talk about how people at higher frequencies, I feel, have the ability to see, ghosts, cryptids, UFOs. And that's my belief. I think that there's so much going on around us. Our brains, and we talked about this with our pareidolia show, where, our brains are wired to find patterns in the things we see. A shadow, a light, cloud, a mountainside that looks like something. And our brains naturally do that. That's kind of how, we're wired. We have a question or a statement. Lori says, I had read somewhere that to lessen the effect of infrasound, plug your ears. It has something to do with the bone in the middle ear that vibration occurs. I'm sure it does. That's a very important little bone, more important than anybody possibly imagines. The military has infrasound, and we're going to get into that, Gary. I've got that You know me in military stuff, and well, not just military, but anyway. So
And then William also.
I'm sorry, William agreed. Some people can see things that most of us can't. Again, I bring that back because we have animals. We have the dogs that stare and bark at things that we can't see. We have cats that can, stare at your wall for an hour and, pretty much freak the hell out of you because you don't know what they can see and you don't know what's on the wall. So we think there's a lot of other things going on, such as like with infants or babies, young children. When people talk about, oh, my son has a best friend, he's invisible, but his name is Charles. And, your kid's over there in the corner playing blocks with somebody. Well, that makes like sense that the children's mind hasn't been, we talked about.
Like it's pure.
It's pure. It doesn't have the chemicals in his body yet or everything that we've taken in over time that have dulled our senses. Mm-hmm. And I think, that's, again, on the conspiracy guy, I think that's what they have done to us. And over time, we lose the ability to, see things that our ancestors might have seen. If you look at old paintings, you saw, spaceships in the air. You saw light coming down from the sky. All these strange creatures and hieroglyphics. And it just really brings up that maybe we have lost that ability to see things like that. I don't know. But
hold on a second.
Okay, hold on.
So Carmen, she asked about frequency and fibromyalgia. That was in the frequency specific microcurrent information. If you're wanting to know, I would Google or search on YouTube for that. Frequencies and fibromyalgia, something like that, and see what that brings up for you. Because it might, I believe that was the only time I had mentioned for fibromyalgia, but I'd probably search for it that way because it did not give a range on that.
Another thing that we do is cognitive bias. So when somebody says, my red circles, when somebody puts a red circle, it's getting you to look at that spot thinking that there's something there. And, that's why I always say don't do that, because our brains are wired to, oh, okay. Whereas, if we look and we see it for ourselves, then we understand that that's what we're seeing is real. People suggesting to you that, oh, look, that cloud looks like a tree. And you're like, oh, yeah, you're right. Whereas you might have said something originally different. Examples of frequency effects. So like with cryptids or ghost sightings, if you're in an old building and there's a wind blowing through, that wind can create an infrasound that gives you that eerie feeling. That any machinery, any architecture, some architecture can create infrasound, with wind hits it or whatever. You feel like something's there watching you or something's around the corner. Now we'll get my opinion on that. These are scientific things. UFOs, bright lights, atmospheric conditions, or electromagnetic interference can trigger unusual perceptions. Combined with psychological expectation, people may interpret them as UFOs. Well, I read that, and I know that I've looked in the sky and I've seen what I thought was a UFO. Nothing. It was a light in the sky, even though I still haven't figured out why they use lights, but it was a light in the sky that traveled faster than any plane I'd ever seen. And it just disappeared. So it went so fast and just disappeared out of sight. And with cryptids, again, we're gonna bring up some points here, but in wilderness settings, low frequency sounds from animals or the environment can cause unease. Of course they can. If you hear a growl in the woods, that can cause unease. That's the way I look at it. I don't look at that as infrasound. I look at something, that's scaring you. This heightened state of alertness may make people misinterpret shapes or movements as mysterious creatures. Again, they're trying to discredit that there's things in the wood that a lot of people don't believe in. The scientific view of this would be many paranormal experiences can be explained by perception, psychology, and environmental frequencies. The cultural, spiritual side of this would say others interpret these frequencies as evidence of higher dimensions or spiritual realms, suggesting that vibrations might connect humans to unseen realities. This is what I fall into. I totally believe this because our ancestors talked about this. Ancient civilizations talked about all of this. And there was no machinery. Well, there might have been machinery back then that created infrasound. There might have been wind. Obviously, there was. But did the wind create infrasound everywhere that everybody heard the things that they heard or saw? So we're going to talk about now is a gentleman that is famous for testing infrasound and running tests with it. His name was Vic Tandy. Vic Tandy was a lecturer at Coventry University, and I believe that was in England. He was an engineer specializing in medical and sports equipment design. Okay, well, that's a little bit odd there, but okay. And he published in academic journals. He was known for a methodical scientific approach, and he was well respected within academia. So he did some testing, and we'll talk about that. But he was well respected. I wanted to make sure that this gentleman wasn't, he was well respected in both academia and the science world, even with paranormal people. He became well known for the 19 hertz ghost frequency study, demonstrating how environmental conditions can create haunted sensations, bridging the gap between paranormal investigators and scientific methodology. He obviously, people pushed back on this. A few traditional paranormal believers didn't like that he debunked hauntings, which a lot of people have a really hard time. We know in our cryptid community, when somebody tells you they can't see it, sometimes that bothers people. But again, I think people see things that other people can't. So I never will dispel that. And some physicists felt his work was interesting but needed further replication. To me, that's science. That's kind of how it works. So anyway, so what are ghost frequencies? Ghost frequencies refer to an infrasound in the 17 to 19 hertz range, especially around 18.9 hertz, which is close to the natural resonance of frequency of the human eyeball. This is the part I found really, really wild. And why they are called ghost frequencies, the same thing we've talked about at the beginning with infrared. Feelings of dread or fear, anxiety or panic, goosebumps or chills, pressure in the chest, and most famously, visual disturbances, shadows, movement, figures in the corner of your eyes. Now, Erica had a story from when she was, when we lived back in Ohio, of seeing, now this was out of the corner of her eyes, seeing a shadow figures of a man with a ball cap, not a ball cap, a man with, I'm assuming like an Amish hat on.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Okay. And then another day she saw 3 children.
No, not Amish, like it was taller than Amish.
Okay. But she saw them out of the corner of her eye. So we were in our condo, the same place we are every day, doing the same things we do every day. So I'm not looking at that as being infrasound, because to me, she saw something. And I don't think infrasound could have been involved because she never saw that ever again.
Well, and Williams says the definition of infrasound is sound below about 20 hertz.
Right.
Because most humans can't hear that low.
Right. Absolutely. So, yeah. So what she saw to me had to be something different because she, we're in the kitchen every day. She cooked every day. So she was using the same instruments over and over, and she never saw that ever again. So maybe it could have been combined with another sound that came in, another infrasound that came in and collided with whatever. And that's why she saw what she saw.
I would believe that.
So yeah, there's that. And then he talks about the different frequencies and what same thing we talked about with what infrasound does, the weather, vibrations, earth vibrations, sound waves. And that's pretty much it about Vic Tandy. Now, my feelings, well, let's get to this first. There were other studies done on infrasound as well. There was one called the Haunted Chamber Studies. And in this one, researchers exposed volunteers to infrasound in controlled environments. About 22% of the participants, let me slow down a little bit. About 22% of participants reported unusual experiences, chills, anxiety, or sensing a presence. Now, it doesn't tell how many people they used, but 22% of the people they used had these feelings. So that's kind of interesting to know. And we'd like to know if anybody else, had any other types of feelings. These effects were strongest in places already believed to be haunted, reinforcing the link between environment and perception. If you go into a building and you're automatically, hey, so-and-so said this is haunted. And I'll bring up an example of that. We went to Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky. And there are lots of videos you can watch on the Waverly Hills. They do haunted walks. You can rent the place out overnight and walk through it and do, all the ghost hunting things. And some people find things. They get hits on their EMF meters and, all the other. But people like me going in, okay, this is supposed to be haunted. Let's go. Let's see what we see. And I never saw a thing. I have a very open mind to all of this, but I'll attribute that I still don't have that ability, that I don't have that frequency. I'm not that high a frequency. So that's what I look at it as, because other people see this and it's highly talked about. So a lot of people go into buildings knowing they're haunted, and then they get that feeling and, oh my gosh, it's haunted. I can feel it. Something's watching or whatever. With Waverly Hills, there's some things that happened that were beyond those feelings. So that's something for you to check out. I highly suggest you go there if you've never been. It's a really neat little tour, and you get to walk around a little bit on your own for a little bit and visit the
tuberculosis hospital.
It was a tuberculosis hospital.
It's a very neat building.
And it's just neat learning what a tuberculosis hospital and what they thought was good for people with tuberculosis.
Yeah, and if you look, you can find videos online, and they'll show, some videos show, or documentaries show, actual footage from back then when patients were being treated, and the layout of the building and how that was supposed to have helped, in their treatments.
Yeah. Another test they did, a study they did, was called Atlas Obscura's Spooky Science Review. Scientists found that infrasound, electromagnetic fluctuations, and even gas leaks can explain why certain locations feel haunted. So I know gas leaks can cause anxiety. And I think not just leaks, but using natural gas can cause a little anxiety. It can make you feel like something's going on in your heart. I've heard this over and over among, we heat with, not completely, but we have natural gas line into our house. And when I turn that on the first time, I do get a different feeling. Now, I don't feel like my house is haunted or anything like that, but it's just a different
feeling. You can tell a difference.
Yeah, exactly. So if you walk into a haunted house or something that's supposed to be haunted and there's a gas, whatever, you might have that feeling. Standing Stone says, my wife worked in an old 1880s insane asylum called Danvers State. I've actually heard of that. Okay. She lived there as a nursing student. Very interesting. Very interesting. So let's do some myths versus facts on infrasound and ghost frequencies, because I thought these were kind of neat as well. Here's myth number one. Infrasound is supernatural energy used by ghosts. Well, we know that it's not. It is natural. It is made by different things. Animals do it. Wind does it. We've already discussed that. These are all the different things. Nothing supernatural is required. Do I think supernatural can use it? Well, of course. I wouldn't having this podcast if I thought that supernatural couldn't use infrasound as well. Number two, infrasound can summon ghosts or spirits. Now we know better than that. I think that was kind of a silly little myth for us to find out, but it cannot. It doesn't. Let's just go to three. I don't even want to discuss that. Ghost sightings prove something paranormal is present. Now, that's the myth. The fact says Vic Tandy discovered that a 19 hertz vibration caused shadowy visual distortions due to how the human eye resonates. This created the illusion of a shadow figure, even though nothing was there. Now, having seen what I thought was a ghost, her having seen what she thought were ghosts or spirits, having seen videos from times before you could really, use AI or anything, I believe they exist 100%, and that it's not just infrasound creating something on the outskirts of your eyes. And I'll really hit you up here. There's times where I'm sitting around and something will move out the corner of my eye that's dark, and I'm sitting outside. Maybe it's not windy, maybe it is windy, but I always turn to look. It happens on both sides. So I think there is something going on. Again, I think there's a lot going on around us that we can't see anymore, that maybe, if we didn't put all the pharmaceuticals and poisons into our body over the years, that maybe we would be able to see those things. Now, somebody asked in chat if too much infrasound can be damaging. So here's the myth. Infrasound is dangerous and will harm you. Here's the fact. Normal environmental infrasound, wind, traffic, machines, is not harmful. Only extremely high intensity infrasound, far beyond everyday levels, could cause physical harm, and it's not found in homes or abandoned buildings. Now, what it means, I guess it's just a lot of high intent, like a lot of infrasound thrown at you at once over a long period of time. That's what I'm getting from that, because infrasound only goes to 20 hertz. It doesn't go any higher, or that would be ultrasound. Myth number 5, haunted places are scary because ghosts are present. Infrasound, again, can cause you to see things, pressure on your ears, slight nausea, things. So it's the same thing that we've been talking about. And I think that's just, I think ghosts exist, spiritual beings. I talk about it in another plane level, another dimension. I totally believe in dimensions, that we are dimensions stacked on dimensions on et cetera, et cetera. When people talk about, hey, you have a doppelganger, or now they're doing pictures of people through time. Like, look at this guy, Jack Black, and look at this 1800 picture. Looks exactly like Jack Black. Maybe there's only so many molds of our faces, and we get used, and they get rid of that, and it comes, whatever. Myth number 7, and this will be the last one. Only paranormal, I skipped a few because they were boring. Only paranormal investigators care about infrasound. Fact, infrasound research is also used in architecture and building design.
Yeah, can you imagine? I mean, windows and how, well, architects plan for, is this a heavy storm area? Where are we building the building? Is it close to the ocean?
Right.
So I can see how that would play a part.
But could it also be in like Victorian times when, there were lots of people putting gargoyles on buildings, and if gargoyles were protection devices for the buildings, if that was something that maybe people built these places knowing that maybe these sounds could scare people and they could use that to their advantage or something, I don't know. And I'm talking old days. I'm not talking now.
Oh, I'm thinking now with like the sensitivity or the effectiveness of the products that they use.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. But, they use infrasound also for volcano monitoring, military applications, which is how we're going to finish the show, wildlife communication, and things like that. So,
yeah.
So now we're going to talk about sound as a weapon. Okay. Infrasound isn't really used as much as a weapon as much as ultrasound and sonic sounds. I believe the government has been working on infrasound because we can't hear it, so they could use it to, completely surprise us with it. And, a stronger hit you really hard. Infrasound's a little harder to control. So is ultrasound. When you get an ultrasound, they're like, I had a sports injury where my Achilles were messed up, and they had to go in and they put the salve on my Achilles, and they give me do ultrasound on my Achilles because it's a healing. It heals. But what science says, here we go. First of all, our government has what are called LRADs, and it's a vehicle that emits extremely loud focused sounds between 90 and 160 decibels. Now we know decibels come with music, or planes. It's a way to measure sound, but they use this as a weapon. It causes pains in the ear, overwhelming noise, and forces people to move away. They have used it here in the US, but not as much as they do overseas. Overseas, they just don't mess around. What's the saying from he gets the hose again or whatever, from Silence of the Lambs. Well, over there, they don't mess around. They just bring out the water truck and blast you with high pressure water. And if you've ever seen that, it'll pretty much knock you back about 50 feet, knock you off your feet. It's pretty much a good crowd control device. Yeah. So that's one way they do it. It also causes pain in the ears, overwhelming noise, forces people away. We have one here. I don't know if you ever wondered about that movie on Rumble called Sudden Death, where they stand up, look around in a circle, and just drop dead. What if they can target people with infrasound? Gene, that's a good question. I talk about the 5G towers our last show. If we've driven by a lot of these 5G towers while my phone is not on 5G, they aren't emitting 5G. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're 4G towers, but there are so many of them that what ifs, the what if is, what if these at any time can be activated to, mess with our brain or whatever as a tool. Again, that would be a hard conspiracy theory, and I'm into that. So I believe our government's doing things and experimenting with things way beyond what we know. So yeah, infrasound is a weapon. Here's what I know. What science says: low frequency infrasound can cause anxiety, nausea, what we talked about, disorientation, and pressure feelings. And that would be not really much as a weapon, but just to disorient you to, if let's say you're holding a hostage, and if they could hit you with infrasound and disorient you, you might, good example, flashbang grenades. Not just the flash, but the bang part of it disorients your body. Now, you hear it, so I don't know if that's really infrasound, but they do mention flashbang grenades. It says weaponizing infrasound is extremely difficult because you need huge speakers or machinery to make powerful infrasound. Now, I don't believe in that because, let's think back to the day when your parents are out of town and they had the old speaker system that my parents had, like 6 feet tall, and you got to crank it up, and they would just put all this bass out. And nowadays they make speakers like this that do the exact same thing that have the exact same sound. So to me, they could develop weapons to use with infrasound that could, harm you in that way. And I believe they've probably used it. Havana syndrome is a prime example of what they are trying to debunk actually happening, but it was happening to people in Cuba. It's happened to other places where these politicians or senators or something were having, just complete dizzy spells and collapsing. They weren't dying, but they were collapsing, and nobody knows what happened. Could be drugs, but they were saying that it was sound waves, that they felt different. They were dizzy. They were nausea. They say that there are no confirmed military infrasounds. No confirmed military infrasound weapon exists. And to that, I want to go, right. So we know that there are ultrasound weapons. It's harder to use because it goes all out, and they can't really focus it as much. They say they can't, but I think they can. And that can irritate or disorient at a close range. So what they're saying is that ultrasound can, affect miles, and that's, that is what it is.
So Standing Stone said they rolled that out in China during the outbreak of C-19. Those people at bus stops just dropping like flies.
I believe it.
And then 5G combined with the C-19.
And that's, when we did the show last week, Standing Stones, that was one of the things I brought up is the people that had the jibber jabber. I don't know if they like that anymore or not, but what if that was working with the 5G towers as well? That's a big conspiracy going around right now. Well, the fact that a lot of us didn't get the old jibber jabber, what are they going to do about us? Because I'm not saying we're the smart ones. Anybody that got the jab, they got it for a reason, and that's fine. I don't judge anybody. I might judge you if you're still getting the jab, but that's part of being, I guess that's part of how I am. But I do think that could be something using against us or have the ability to use against us, just like infrasound. What if these towers can create infrasound? I don't know. It's something we don't know. It's something they're never going to tell us, but we have an awful lot of towers around here that do something. Gary Spike says military was using infrasound in the 70s at a weapon, but still not releasing it to the public. And I'm not going to argue. You are a military man.
Right.
I'm going to have to say that you probably know what you're talking about with that more than I do. I'm going to have to agree with you because I believe a lot of what the military has used on us, we still don't know about. Do you judge us having big speakers though?
Oh,
Catherine, I wish I had my parents' big Hitachi or whatever they were, Carmen Bay, whatever. They were great speakers. It just took up way too much room. And in our cabin, our neighbors wouldn't appreciate us. So, but yeah, it's, you remember the old stereo systems. You see them stacked up. There's your cassette player and dual cassette player. And then you got your receiver, and then you got a CD player on top of that when you got one when they were new. And you had this big system that was, stacks and stacks, and your speakers were, 4 feet tall by 18 inches wide with a 20-inch subwoofer. Yeah. And you could, you were definitely going to get the neighbors called or the police called on you. Standing Stone, I was like 40 feet from massive cell tower, but there's a walking trail. So myself, wife, and dog went there, and I got such a bad headache. And I hear about that a lot, Standing Stones. A lot of people that live around the 5G towers have a lot of issues. I know that one of the things that I read was that bees won't build their hives around the 5G towers, and it keeps them away. It's something that, of course, when we did the show last week, they said that wasn't true. When we looked up the science end of it, that, that's not true. They can't prove that. And well, that's actually kind of easy to prove, really. If bees can't be around towers, then there's obviously, we know that there's things being emitted from those towers anyway. I mean, how else would the signal get out if there was nothing be sent out from the towers? But we don't know about all the towers from here to an hour away on one stretch of road. I'll bet there's 10 towers, and there doesn't need to be 10 towers. Now, I'll admit one of them I think is like maybe a Doppler tower, maybe, but the rest are a typical cell phone tower or cell tower. And I know that LTE is still out there, which would be 4G, and then your 5G towers. But I don't know if you've ever used when you're now I'm getting back on last week's show, but the LTE towers, usually you don't get a good, like your phone doesn't act right. It doesn't download things fast enough. It's slower. Correct. So let's think about that. Next time you get a dizzy spell when you're in the woods, think about when you get your brain back to you, when you're not dizzy, think about that. Look around. Is there a wind blowing? Is there a tower nearby? Is there something that could be giving you the infrasound effect, or is there something else out there doing it? And I know, in talking with a lot of the people on the shows that, an Old Line Cryptids, which if you haven't checked it out, please check it out. I know most people have here. Great show, and a lot of the other ones that we post every week, and somehow we'll get them up there where we show that we know up there. Check those shows out. When you find out these creatures exist or these things exist, you will believe more and more in what we're talking about with infrasound, the things that create, UFOs, ghosts. Don't just let science tell you what's there. Okay. If you see it with your eyes, if you're looking straight at it, you're seeing it. That's how it works. When they say you see it out of the corner of your eyes, I still say you're seeing something. You might not be all the way there to see it in front of you, meaning that if there's a ghost and I'm seeing things moving out of here, it's because maybe my frequencies aren't to the point that I see it straight in front of me. These are things to think about. That's supposed to be what science is about, right? But instead, they want to tell us that things don't exist when you need to keep questioning those types of things. Also, they are seeing lots of cancer around those towers. Yes, Gene, they are. Not going to, I think anytime you have sound waves or those types of radiation waves coming off towers, that you're going to have those issues. Oh, Jerry.
So
I have a Kenwood system still today, racked, stacked, and ready to blow out windows. Hey, I love it. I mean, that's great. I wish we don't have a system like that. We don't have the room.
We don't have the room.
We wanted to get out in the middle of nowhere and in our cabin and just love nature. We couldn't quite afford what we wanted, so we bought us a cabin sort of close to our neighbors. We have some neighbors, and I don't think they would respect the music we listen to. I can't see like you listening to 9 Inch Nails or something like that, or Whitechapel or something like that. If you guys don't know who those are, one's very heavy band from Tennessee. Anyway, we're not here to push music. So anybody else got anything they want to add on infrasound? Has anybody in chat, and I know there are some, if they would like to talk about it, we'll put it up on the screen and tell us your experience with infrasound. Like I said, I know somebody in chat, but I'm not going to name them, that it really freaked them out, really bad that they lost time. And that's a tough one. Nobody wants to lose time. You talked about UFO experiences and losing time with UFO experiences and possibly being abducted. Again, these are things that I believe happen. People call me crazy. Some people call me the space cowboy. Some people call me Maurice. Anyway, so if nobody's got anything to throw in here, let's see.
Gosh.
Did we get any more questions or anything? We hope you learned a little bit from the show. We just wanted to touch on frequencies in general and then get into what they call the ghost frequencies, because I know that a lot of people in the Bigfoot community, in the UFO community, and the ghost community have experienced these types of situations, these feelings of unease and dread. Gary Spike says, infrasound knocked me out, but saved my life by getting me. Yes. There you go. And I believe that was your trip to Hollins, if I'm correct. Maybe not, but it is what it is, right? It saved your life. And I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. Firm believer. So, yeah. You got anything you want to toss in there?
No, not as far as the subject that
go
we've
ahead.
covered tonight, but we've a lot of people have come in since the beginning of the show. So thank you everybody for being here. And we have the holidays coming up. So we got Thanksgiving coming up.
Everybody's ready to overeat.
I have some personal things coming up, and I will appreciate any of the good vibes that y'all can send my way. And it's a new project for me, and that's about all I'm gonna say. But anyhow, we will be back next Sunday. Like I said, I know a lot of people will probably be busy with family things, Thanksgiving weekend. Got Black Friday coming up. So
whoa. We have what Friday coming up?
All of the shopping that's coming up, and then followed by Cyber Monday. But y'all know they have already started, the online deals and everything.
Black Friday isn't quite what it used to be, which is good because people were idiots and would run over each other. So they had to do it this way. So people wouldn't break down the doors and run over the staff and fight each other over a Furby. I don't know if you guys remember those days, but I can remember news reports of people fighting over Furbies. Wow.
Yeah.
And that's one thing you'll learn about me is I'm not a person that's, like with athletes. I've played hockey with professional guys that went to the NHL that became big names. I don't care. They were friends to me. It's not like I'm going to throw out their name and go, oh my gosh, did I ever tell you about the time, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe in that. They're just dudes just like us. And I believe that.
Where are you coming from?
Because Furbies and how things were big. And I don't know. My brain goes
hockey.
There. Yeah. I don't know.
Was it about Black Friday?
Black Friday. Black Friday. I think I got hit with infrasound right there. I lost a little bit. What?
There was a disconnect.
There was a disconnect, which happens a lot with me.
Yeah. I don't doubt that. Gary Spikes at Walmart. My daughter got knocked down by an old lady for a vacuum on Black Friday. And it's crazy because, a lot of people go to these stores with the expectation that they're going to have the inventory available. And a lot of times, especially on the really crazy deals, they may have one in stock, and you're fighting this line. I've only been Black Friday shopping in person.
Oh,
a couple of times. And it's weird because one time it was like, I had a job for 10 years and every Black Friday we had to go to work the whole day and do inventory. And so one time I actually got up at 3:00 that morning or whatever and went to Kohl's on my way to work. Oh no. I mean, it was all around the store. The line was huge. I'm like, there's no way. It wasn't worth the time or effort. So that was one experience. Another one more recently, last few years, it was in the evening, I believe, of Black Friday, and there wasn't hardly anyone in the store. So those are my Black Friday.
Well, I think now with Amazon and stuff like that, and it's a lot easier to do Black Friday shopping. But then again, I'm also the person that says, well, if they can lower the prices on Black Friday, why can't they lower the prices all the time? It seems, and we know what they do. They jack the prices up just to lower them for a sale. So they're back to normal price.
Yeah, Jean, I share your experience with that too, because I did work Black Fridays for several years.
Wow. I know right now what's hot is there's some Starbucks cup. We saw this the other day, and people were waiting overnight in line at Starbucks for this cup, for a coffee cup. Excuse me. And they had one. So all these people waited in line, and the people in the store they were interviewing was like, we only have one to give away. And it's like,
yeah,
what is wrong with people?
Yes.
And it just doesn't make any sense to me that people will wait in line. Furby, it's a collector's item now. You didn't know that at the time, but it's a collector's item now. You can find Furbies for some ungodly prices on eBay, which...
Look at that.
Seen a guy at Walmart smack a year-old baby across the face so the mother would leave the $2.
That is insane.
DVD. Okay, now you're going to get me back into it's good and evil out there, people, and it's getting worse. We see it every day.
Oh, yeah.
We watch it every day. It's getting worse out there. So if you can shop at home in the comfort in your jammies, in your, naked, if that's what you do, in your tighty whities, I suggest doing it. It's a lot easier on you mentally. You don't have to go out and deal with the people that you don't want to deal with. You don't have to worry about the violence that is taking place nowadays. And you don't have to worry about being somewhere where a mass casualty event could happen. And I know that's horrible to talk about, but we're seeing it every day now, mass casualty events, the lack of respect for life and everything. So, if you have that opportunity to shop on, Amazon, you can find anything in it. Now, if you're looking to shop American, which I love to do, Shop for good old items made in the USA.
As you throw your fists up, look at the
I'd rather
comment.
bear a box of Grizzly than going into Publix. Absolutely, Jeff. I agree 100% with that. I do that every day. I think to her, she'd be like, "You want to go to the big city?" I'm like, "Not really." And we talked about on one of the shows how we think, it's like you're walking around zombies. Imagine,
Mhm.
imagine these zombies awoken for the holidays and shopping, and you're grocery shopping, and some lady's on her phone in the middle of the aisle talking on her cell phone and not seeing you, trying to get around her. That's the kind of people you run
Oh
into.
yeah, like oblivious or just flat out rude. I don't know. It could be a mixture, but
Catherine says, "I'm not a shopper at all." Good job, Catherine.
Mhm.
Absolutely. It's just, be careful out there. Like I say at the end of every show, stay frosty and keep your head on a swivel. We're living in wild times right now, people.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot going on that you're not hearing about. If you watch CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, whatever, CNB, all of those, you're not hearing about what's actually going around because they don't want to put that in the news, because then nobody's going to go outside and do anything. It's there. It's happening. The violence is happening. The looting's happening. It's not out of control yet, but it's getting there. We see the stories every day. We see the mass, anytime there's over 3 people shot, that's called a mass casualty event. It's called a,
Cereal.
what would you call it?
Mass casualty event.
Yeah, anytime there's over 3 people shot, it's considered mass casualty. So you have to be, just be aware of your surroundings. Gentlemen, sit with your backs against the wall, watching the doors for your ladies. Make sure you know what's going on. Highly suggest that. Flat Rock, you have stay safe from Walmart shoppers. Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely.
Hope everybody has a great week and a great Thanksgiving.
And we hope you learned something from tonight's show. Again, we're not experts. We go through, we take notes. We try to share this information with you because a lot of us don't know what's going on. And hey, hi, E.B. Shimmer.
That's me.
That's Erica.
Me, by the way.
Now that everything's changed, it's on our show. But just be careful out there. Try to love your fellow man if you can. It's hard, I know. And hopefully everybody gets to see their family and their families all get along.
Yes.
That's a big thing right now with the temperature outside. And I don't mean, political temperature outside.
So we will be here next Sunday. A new topic. We'll release that later on in the week. And join us if you can. Obviously, you can always watch afterward. But we're always happy to have you here.
Yeah, do some fun stuff. And then if you look around, Wednesday is when we usually try to post a new show, what we're going to do. Sometimes that we get a little, oops, let me get that off the screen. Way to go, Flat Rock.
Stop.
Off the screen, hide. But usually by Thursday or Friday, we'll tell you what we're gonna do a show on, and we'll post everything. And if you could do us a favor, give us a thumbs up, subscribe. If you don't like the show, then don't like it, don't subscribe. It doesn't do us. We're just trying to give information and help everybody learn, because we're learning, and that's what we want to do. We also have a Facebook page. If you're not a member of that, hop on there, join that. I post memes, allow people to hop in on conversation as far as the memes I post. If they believe it, I've got people that tell me they don't believe what I post, and they tell me, I agree 100%. So do that as well. And if you're not a member but if you're not following us on YouTube, again, please like and subscribe to our channel. We would greatly appreciate it. Other than that, we hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy your family and friends. And for the most part, take care. Stay frosty and head on a swivel. And other than that, we are out of here. And I'm looking for thank you, everybody. We appreciate it.
See you guys.
See ya. Big love.
Big love.